The Social Development Department says South Africans who've been receiving the 350 Rand Social Relief of Distress grant need now to reapply. Previously, the grant was processed through the State of Disaster Declaration, which came to an end at the beginning of this month. Now, the grants will be disbursed through the Social Assistance Program. Let's talk about what this change actually means. We're joined by Sassa's Head of Communications, Paseka Letsatsi. Mr. Letsatsi, a very good afternoon to you. Welcome to the program. Let's begin with that very question, the crux of the change.
Good afternoon, Tembeki, and thanks for having us. The reason why there's a change is because we were basically administering the 350 COVID-19 under the national state of disaster, which basically came to an end, and we are now using the social assistance. Hence, because we are now using it under the new legislative framework, we had to make sure that administratively people then are put on the system. But unfortunately, if not fortunately, everybody had to reapply because it's not the same legislation that we are using.
How many people receive the grant currently?
We have currently processed more than 7.2 million applications since we opened last Friday. But obviously, overall, in the last cycle, we had about 10.4 million people who were part of the system.
So 10.4 who were part of the payouts. Initially, 7.2 million have now been able to reapply. How quickly are you able to turn around and give feedback to the people? Because, as we know, this is a grant for people who have no other form of income.
Definitely, Tembeki. I think the process is very quick. I mean, from Friday last week when we opened the system to this Friday, we've already enrolled about 7.2 million. But we just want to emphasize something here, Tembeki. We want people to make sure that they apply in April so that they can then be paid for money of April. Unfortunately, if you are not going to apply in April and apply in May, you are not going to be backdated to be paid in April. So those who want to be paid for April, we are urging them to make sure that they make that particular application before the end of the month.
So to be clear, from the 10.4 million people, 7.2 million you say have now sent through applications. Does that mean
Yes.
that the balance will not receive any payout come the end of the month?
Look, we may not say that because it's Friday today. People can still make applications today, tomorrow, and Sunday. But we know that some people might not make an application because of one reason or the other. And one of the most common reasons might be the fact that people's conditions have changed. Someone might now be employed and they would not see any reason why they should continue to apply to get the 350.
So as things stand, this grant has been extended by, as per the announcement by the President and the State of the Nation address, it's going to continue until well into the new year, 2023. How often do you imagine that people are going to have to go through this process where they are reapplying and having their information scrutinized once more?
What we simply do, Tembeki, is to make sure that we do what we call monthly validation in terms of the conditions of individuals, whether they've changed or not. Because in the past, we have observed that even when people go back to work, for example, there are those who might have been working at a salon, for example, and the salon closes down, then they apply for a 350. When the levels change from level 4 to level 3, a person would not, in some instances, come to us and say, my status has changed. So we have to make sure that each and every month we check that particular process, if indeed a person's status has changed or not. However, if the status has not changed and you have made an application, we'll continuously make sure that you get what is due to you. But unfortunately, the system is such that if the status has changed of an individual, we would pick it up and make sure that we do not necessarily process the payment, because the AG is one of the weaknesses which was picked up at the beginning of the system.
Without reapplication, I know you've explained this before, but let's go through it again. Without reapplication, do you automatically take that to mean, month on month, that that person's financial situation has changed?
Yeah, no, we do, but obviously the system is such that it's very simple for you to keep on verifying yourself every month, and we are able to check if indeed the status has changed or not. So you do not necessarily have to take you through a painful process of making sure that we check certain things. But obviously, if you are part of the system, and the status has not changed because we have an agreement with other government agencies to be able to check, even including the banks, you can then be able to check if there's an amount of money which comes into your account. So, but unfortunately, currently, each and every individual, as you speak, have to make sure that they make an application.
Let's talk about what you were just touching on there, the level of scrutiny of how these funds are disbursed and to whom and how. The AG, the Auditor General, is involved, as you say. Has there been any significant level of, shall we say, inappropriate behavior or attempts to basically scam the system?
At the beginning, remember, there were some gaps which were advised to make sure that we close those particular gaps. People took chances. They were identified. There are people who were public servants who tried their luck. There are those who were getting paid, who tried their luck and so on. But in some instances, you find that there's a lapse. You find a person at the time when a person was making the application, the person was not working. We then process and approve a person. In the process, while the person is still waiting to get paid, they get employed. And when it appears on the other level, it appears as if this person is employed and obviously applied when they knew that they were employed. But the system is such that it's so close, such that we took those recommendations of the AG very seriously, and we improved the system. So it's able to pick up a certain anomalies, or it's able to pick up those who are trying to defraud. You know, every time when you try to do something, when there's money involved, there are those who are planning to defraud the system and so on. But our system is just that at least we are able to close all the loopholes. We are able to pick up those who are trying to defraud us. That's why in most cases, if you appear in other databases, we are able to pick you up very quickly.
Paseka Letsatsi, Head of Communications at the South African Social Security Agency, thank you for your time, sir.